Welcome to Running on Reddit. What is a seemingly harmless parenting mistake that will majorly duck up a child later in life? Never showing up for events. I remember my parents didn't come to most of my chorus concerts. It really sucked to see my classmates' families cheer them on while my parents were absent. I brought home one of my chorus program papers to show my parents, and I found it in the trash the next day. I was sad because I wanted to keep it, but seeing it in the trash, I didn't want it anymore. Edit. I love my parents and I don't blame them for not showing up. They are small business owners, and it was hard for them to find people who could work for them whenever I had concerts or anything. It still hurt though. Also, the replies to this are very sad. I'm sorry that a lot of you guys went through similar experiences. Second edit. Also, my mom is a clean freak. She'll discard or move any stray papers laying around. She probably didn't think much of it. She might not have even realized what it was. She can't read English that well, it's her third language. After I told her, she apologized to me, so it's okay. I thought I should add that my little sister and grandma would come to them, but my relationship with my grandma isn't great. It's just not the same as having your parents there, if that makes sense. Man, my mom, thankfully, came to a lot of my choir concerts when she could, but my dad never came to a single one. He doesn't see that stuff as important. I would be more understanding if there's a conflict of work or something, but he just refused because he didn't see a reason for it. This one hit home. My family never came to my choir concerts. My best friend had a helicopter mom to end all helicopter moms. It didn't matter, she was there every single time. She always paid $1 for those little candy grams where you can send the singer a note with a fun-sized piece of candy attached to it. My mom came into my room one day and asked what they were, as I had them all pinned up. I told her she would know if she was there. My parents went on to explain they didn't know it was important to me. Really? It takes a rocket scientist to know that if your child puts continuous time and effort into something for no other reason than it being fun, that it's probably important to them? Please. Granted, they started coming after that, but by then I only had a handful left, and they stopped the next year anyway. Really dropped the ball on that one. Telling them that the family members who are mean to them or neglect them, love them. And he does love you, you know. Well damn, it doesn't feel like it. Maybe if he loved me, he should show it instead of insulting everything I say or do. One of my sisters was a huge booty hole. Every time she'd cause issues with me, my ma would always say that deep down she cared about me. Later in life she told me to kill myself while I was in a depressive episode. Yeah, this is me too. Apart from the hole, she loves you deep down. When my ex left me a few years ago, I was in a really bad place, still am, and I was suicidal. I've also had depression for years before this happened. Both my sister and mum called me selfish for it. Worst part is they both have depression too. I asked my sister to call my ex up on my behalf and plead with her. Bad idea, I know. She said to her that she can't lose her brother. The ducked up thing is that she is one of the reasons why I'm still suicidal. I hate her. My mum has always been closer to my sister than me, and it really ducking shows now. All my sister does is criticize me and give me shod, but my mum, despite seeing the hurt and annoyance on my face, says duck all to stop her. I resent them both for it. It can be the smallest thing that sets her off too. I made a cup of tea last week, and as I was stirring it, she said, "Ducking hell, how long do you have to stir it for?" in a really nasty way. It sounds like such a pathetic thing to get upset over, but I went upstairs and laid on my bed thinking just how much I'd love to end my life as a duck you to them and others that have hurt me. Good for getting it out, but I sure hope there are better ways to tell someone, duck you. Often when somebody gets mad over nothing, that thing is a stand-in for their actual problem. And unfortunately it sounds like your sister resents that you exist near her space. You were having something that you enjoy, and that seems to have triggered a response in her. You don't really have a lot of options at that point. You can avoid, or you can try to have a civil conversation with her and hash out exactly what it is that's the problem, and see if you can come to an understanding. When I was 4, my parents adopted a kitten. Of course I had never seen anything quite so delightful before, and I could barely keep my hands off the little furball. So about 2 or 3 days passed. I get up in the morning and walk out and ask, where is the kitten? And my parents told me that he died, implying that my roughhousing had killed it. I was terrified to touch an animal for several years thereafter. In fact, they had simply given the kitten back to the people they got it from. This is a cruel thing to do to anyone. I'm appalled just reading this. This made me so sad. Why the duck did they do that? Usually parents lie when pets die, not the other way around. Not having them do chores. My parents pushed me to be academic, so doted on me hand and foot as a kid, to make more room for study. When you're too young and stupid to know any better, you think it's a blessing. When I moved out to uni, I didn't really know how to clean, when to clean, what to clean with, how to wash clothes, how to get them dry, etc. The only thing I could do is cook and binge drink. That's no way to bring up a kid, and it's a steep learning curve doing all that stuff for the first time in your early 20s. It sounds like a super lame answer, but make sure every kid does their fair share of chores. I did have to do chores, but I couldn't make any decisions for myself. Then all of a sudden they thought I was just going to do everything right with no experience, so I can see how that would really apply to more tangible things too. Kids have to do to learn. Don't smother your kids. My mom quit having her own life the moment my brother and I were born. She was an incredibly devoted and loving mother, was very kind to us, but when we were born she stopped having friends, did not work, and was home every single day from when I was born to when I moved out in my early 20s. She was very easy to upset because she had no other source of self-esteem, and any time I screwed up, and I screwed up a lot, it was as if I had levied a very personal attack against her. In the last 5 years or so before I left, I don't think we had a single conversation that didn't drive her to tears, and I promise I wasn't that bad. I constantly felt cornered and stressed, and fell into depression as a defense mechanism, and she took my resulting lack of performance very personally, creating a very treacherous cycle that was only broken when I enlisted and finally got away. To this day, I often feel like I'm a bad person who failed to live up to her love. Holy shit, it's like I wrote this. Sorry to hear you're going through the same thing. I started seeing a counselor, and she really helped me to process the issues I have because of my enmeshed family. Yeah, I can resonate with this. My mother never really had friends and is a depressed, lonely person, and that's how I turned out. But it's just like with anything, she would tell us, you guys saved my life. I wouldn't be here without kids. Stuff like the reason I'm alive is because of my children, and you mean more than anything, even myself too, to me, and I would die for you 1,000 times, and if anyone hurt you I'd kill them and go to jail so you don't have to suffer. And on, and I guess a lot of parents feel that way for the kids. To love them above everything is good, but she'd say it like she needed it to be true, or maybe almost like we needed to reciprocate, like love her unconditionally and communicate that we'd do anything for her because she'd do anything for us, and it's a very bad mentality. Saying I don't care who started it. I grew up with friends whose siblings would target the one with the bad temper, provoke them into a rage, then cry and play victim when they got slapped. In this case, it does matter who started it. A parent has to make it clear that violence isn't okay, but neither is provoking someone into said violence. It doesn't matter that said person never hit or kicked while their sibling did. They never would have gotten hurt in the first place if they didn't encourage the aggression to begin with. Children are clever and will find loopholes in their parents' rules. Parents need to be better and snuff out that kind of BS when it starts. If they don't, they'll raise a manipulator and a scapegoat. One will use them and one will resent them. It's a lose-lose, all because of a simple rule. My parents always told me that they didn't care about justice, they cared about peace and quiet, and life isn't fair. So I believed them. So since life wasn't fair and all they cared about was peace and quiet, I didn't tell them things or ask for help. I was afraid to yell for help when I was stuck on the porch for hours. They like to tell this as a funny story now. Lol, what a dumb kid. But it's awful for me because I just remember being stuck and in pain, and yet too scared of my own parents to call for help. There was no point in telling them things either, like being molested. And now as an adult my parents are all like, oh but we just wanted you to be quiet, we didn't mean it. No, you did mean it. That is exactly what you meant and that's exactly what you said. You wanted me to be quiet no matter what. Quiet? That was the only thing that was important to you. I gotta say these parents have to know. One of my kids loved to do annoying stuff and then his brother would punch him. When he said brother hit me, I wasn't doing anything and he just hit me. Punish him? I questioned. While I have seen my kids doing this, once the baby of the family went up and straight punched his brother in the face. No reason. I always got both parties involved. Questioned what happened before. And if you instigated, you got punished too. Or if the provocation was a lot and the retaliation wasn't a lot, then just the instigator gets punished. I swear half of being a parent when you have more than two is like an episode of Law and Order, kid style. Pretty much telling you that whatever activity that you enjoy doing is annoying or dumb. I used to love to sing. I was in chorus and would play my favorite songs over and over to learn the words. Not only did my sisters tease me for it, but my parents told me to shut up constantly. So I stopped singing. I must have been terrible, right? I sing when I'm alone, or jokingly with some friends. What really broke me was when I went to visit everyone for the holidays and my sister said that she was surprised I never pursued singing, since I seemed to love it so much when I was younger. I nearly started crying and had to bite my tongue so I wouldn't scream at her for being one of the reasons I stopped. It's always funny for the ones doing the teasing, but it actually hurts the ones being teased, especially when it's coming from people who are supposed to love you. I won a scholarship for singing while I was in primary school, private lessons twice a week. One day my dad stopped taking me, saying he couldn't afford them anymore. At the time I didn't know the lessons were already paid for from the scholarship. My asshole father thought it was lame and the lessons were useless. You don't have to cry and scream, but you could have told her. You can talk to people about things they did to you that hurt you. That's okay. Getting them involved in problems they have no control over. My parents felt the need to keep me in the loop regarding our pending foreclosure and argue in front of me over which one was to blame when I was 10. What possible reason is there to share that with a kid? I barely slept for months. I was convinced the cops were gonna bust in at midnight and throw us all outside. On the flip side, let your kids know if the family is facing an eviction. I was the only one home when the marshals came. I had a backpack packed at all times with a snack, bottle of water, my Power Ranger morphers, a change of clothes and a blanket just in case she kicked me out for good. I think my Game Boy was in there as well, and I was ready to grab my favorite soft toy if I needed to. It wasn't for a foreclosure, it was because all my life my mum had threatened to kick me out because she hated me. The earliest was because I woke her up with my coughing in the night. I have vague memories of waking up and not being able to breathe. I was very little. Turns out it was a sign that I had asthma, and it was left untreated until I became an adult. I literally couldn't breathe and my mum, instead of taking me to the doctors, threatened to kick me out so she could sleep. If you like the content and want to support the channel, like and subscribe right now, or you'll be running on fumes. Not following through with your promises. If you told your child you were buying ice cream tomorrow in the hopes that they'd forget, and the next day, when they ask you, tell them no, they'll see you as unreliable. Ice cream is just the first thing that came to my mind. I'm sure someone else can explain better what I'm trying to say here without sounding so ridiculous. I taught my children at very young ages that, outside of extreme circumstances, failing to keep a promise made is the same as telling a lie. Therefore, I won't make promises to them that I'm not absolutely certain I can keep. They learned early in life that I take my promises very seriously and will go to great lengths to honor them. We have hit very hard times recently and I have had to delay delivery on some promises, which breaks my heart. But they know that I will fulfill those promises eventually and are much more empathetic and understanding than their peers have been in similar situations. Mine is an extreme case, but my mom left me when I was around 3 and started a new family shortly after. My entire childhood was filled with, I'll do XYZ, and she never would. She was most famous for, I'll pick you up tomorrow, or, I'll be there in X minutes and just never show. She did this on my 5th birthday. I remember it so vividly. My dad got me up before dark. He got me all dressed, did my hair, and took cute pictures with a little mermaid doll she had brought by a few days earlier. I was so excited. Then I went and sat on the front steps as the sun was coming up. I sat there all day long. I didn't want to move because I didn't want to miss her coming down the long driveway. Finally my dad's girlfriend told me it was nap time, 2 p.m. I said I couldn't take a nap because mom might come while I'm sleeping. The way she told me, honey, I'm sorry but I don't think she's coming today, just broke me. I still went and sat back on those steps. She never came. I still trust no one. I'll never forget that day. I worry I'll never be right after years of her doing things like that. It was like a moment ingrained in my head as when my heart broke and was never the same. Always do your best to do what you say for your kids. Edit. Thanks for the nice thoughts and silver and gold. In a weird way I feel a bit better. I never really talk with anyone about this but my husband, so it's cathartic to get it out. Thanks for listening. Best wishes to anyone else who's had to deal with this stuff. It's just hard. Words can't really express what it does to a person. Hopefully we can all find some peace one day. Edit again. Really thanks so much for all the support. It means a lot. I've spent my whole life feeling like something was wrong with me. I'm so sad so many others have had to go through this, but it helps in a way to know that it wasn't just me. I've known logically for years my mother is a narcissist and no kid should have to deal with these things, but it's somehow easier to identify with other stories when knowing how wrong it is. Growing up I never met anyone who experienced what I did, so in a odd way it helps to know I'm not alone, although I really wish no one else would have had to deal with a parent like this. I'm terribly sorry if you're one of the many others who has had these experiences. Love to all of you. Please take extra thought and care for your little ones if they are dealing with this. They need so much love and understanding. Thanks again for all the kind wishes. When I was a kid, maybe 8, my family went to the Mall of America. I saw the roller coaster and asked if we could ride it. My dad said yeah, we will ride it later, and later I asked and he said no. That's the first time I remember my parents lying to me. By the time I was in high school they said, when you and your sister graduate college we will take you to Rome, and I didn't even bother getting excited because I knew it was bullcrap. Parenting is a very serious job that can yield amazing results when performed correctly. It's tough to hear so many parents not caring or totally disregarding the needs or feelings of their children. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe and turn on the bell or you'll be running on fumes. See you in the next video.